Published 11:36s, the 15th of November 2017. Updated 12:40s, the 15th of November 2017. Rashan Charles pictured D in July after being arrested, and a coroner may give anonymity to the two officers involved to protect them from a Joe Cox-style attack. The police officers who arrested Rashan Charles could remain anonymous over fears a string of death threats could lead to a Joe Cox-style murder. The first officer to restrain Rashan said he was constantly on edge after threatening posts were made on social media about him following the 20-year-old's death. Rashan D. in the early hours of July 22 after a police chase in Dalston, East London, where a plastic package containing caffeine and paracetamol was pulled from his throat. His death sparked a mini riot in East London, with mounted officers and police with shields pelted with missiles. It also sparked civil unrest, with anti-police activists campaigning with protesters at a vigil for Mr. Charles. Coroner Mary Hassel said she may ban the naming of the two cops who arrested him after a pre-inquest review heard about the threats. The officers referred to as BX-47 and BX-48 cannot be named currently under an interim order. Barrister John Beggs, representing the Metropolitan Police at the pre-inquest review hearing, said it was feared posts could result in a Joe Cox-style attack if the officers are named. Mr. Beggs said when Joe Cox was tragically murdered many years ago, many media outlets said that when people are putting toxic comments, it can create an atmosphere where one or two loners can respond to that. Barrister Neil Saunders, representing the two officers, added the concerns of these officers are well-founded. Mr. Charles was tackled in a shop, pictured, and D at the scene, with a plastic package containing caffeine and paracetamol pulled from his throat. His death sparked a mini riot in East London with mounted police, pictured, called to restore order. A bin was set on fire during a night of unrest and police with riot shields were sent to the scene. Hay told the hearing. One comment said, "This is nonsense in the USA. The UK, it won't stop, will it, until at least 10 of the policemen who have murdered a member of our community are found wounded outside their home with 2 bullet wounds in each knee. A sign we could have murdered, but we're not as evil as you." The comment added, "Sadly there's no other way of getting them to stop." Other comments included an eye for an eye, kill back and shoot the police. Mr. Saunders said that's the material we have been able to identify in the month or so afterwards. He also told the hearing officer BX-47, who was the first to restrain Rashan, said his family and neighbors fear a backlash if his identity was made known. His statement said, "We have warned them not to talk about the incident, even to their close friends, and if they are asked about it to deny my involvement." The officer also said he has been targeted by bloggers who have accused him of wrongdoing. Demonstrations were also organized by family and friends to protest the death and the police's involvement. Shadow Home Secretary Diane Abbott left spoke at a vigil in Dalston with Mr. Charles' father ESA, right, and called for peaceful protests. She said he has been accused of actually strangling Mr. Charles, and one person has stated the pathologist who conducted the post-mortem is being prevented from speaking the truth. The officer said, "I fear as a result of all this there may be a real threat to myself and my family as a result of my identity being revealed. I'm constantly on edge, living in fear of being recognized and what might happen as a result. If my address becomes known, there's no doubt there would be a great deal of media attention. My immediate concern is I, my wife and child would be at serious risk of physical harm." The officer's wife said in a statement, "Our son runs home from school. He's too anxious to go out on his own." Jude Bunting, representing Rashan's mother and grandmother, argued the officers should be named to maintain open justice during the inquest. He said, "This is an inquest of the utmost public interest. There have been widespread protests in Hackney and elsewhere." The family of Mr. Charles, pictured, said the officers should be named to maintain open justice. Flowers and tributes were left at the scene outside the shop in Dalston to remember Mr. Charles. A national movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, have taken this to heart. Mr. Bunting added, "Seeing the officer involved, hearing from the officer involved, knowing who he is part of this inquest." Coroner Mary Hassel said witnesses during the inquest will include both BX-47 and BX-48, 2 pedestrian witnesses who will also remain anonymous, another police officer, paramedics and a pathologist. The coroner put an interim order banning the naming BX-47 and BX-48 in place on September the 20th ahead of today's hearing. She said she will give a decision on whether to lift the order on Friday. The inquest is currently expected to last 3 weeks and expected to begin on June 4, 2018. The coroner said she will decide where it will be held at a later date. CCTV released after Rashan's death showed the moment officers struggled with him on the floor of the shop. The incident was followed by violent protests on the streets of London and sparked an investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, which is expected to last until March next year. The IPCC revealed in August that the package swallowed by Rashan contained a mixture of paracetamol and caffeine wrapped in plastic.